In 1999, Turkey became a candidate for full membership of the European Union. In 2005, negotiations on that agreement began. 15 years after that, how much closer is Turkey to being a member of the group? What does the EU have to do to live up to its agreements in terms of the accession? And what does Turkey still need to do to convince Brussels that it's ready for membership? The EU Rapporteur on Turkey is in the country for the first time since taking up the position 3 months ago. He's meeting the government, other politicians, journalists, academics, members of civil society and business, and more. We speak to Nacho Sanchez Amor. I'm Adnan Nawaz. This is One on One. Mr. Amor, welcome to the program. Also, of course, welcome to Turkey.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. My pleasure.
You've been in the job for 3 months. You've already spoken positively about Turkey's relationship with the European Union. If we're to examine the situation as we are right at this moment, would you say Turkey is more in or more out of the EU?
Turkey is an accession country. It is far more in than before being an accession country. This is clear. And I would to reaffirm on behalf of the European Union that the format we want to Turkey, or the relation with Turkey, is accession country and accession process. Turkey is a candidate country, and that is a status that only enjoyed a few countries in the world.
Almost every single transaction, relationship, issue, discussion point that happens between Ankara and Brussels seems to have that accession agreement within it. And if we look at the situation of the refugee deal that was done between Ankara and the European Union in 2016, there were a few issues of accession and the relationship with the EU in that deal as well. It was supposed to re-energize the accession process, but there haven't been really any significant talks since then. There was also the desire for Turkey to be part of the customs union. That still hasn't happened. And also the visa-free travel for Turkish passport holders in the Schengen area, that also hasn't happened. So where is that overall deal when none of these things have happened?
No, there are different folders. Turkey is an accession country, has to meet the standard of the accession process, and this is a folder different than the visa liberalization that has other requisites, and the customs unions. Turkey is a member of the customs union with the European Union, but we have to, apparently is needed, to revamp or to review the situation, and it's going to be addressed in the future. This is a part of, let's say, the package to approach a country to the European Union. My migration deal or migration statement is related with a more conjunctural issue that we have, that the crisis in the year 15 is not have to be part of the accession issues because it happened because there was a war in Syria, not because other things. And I think really the migration deal is the more normalized relation we have with Turkey. We talk about the situation, we talk about how we were dealing at that time with the phenomenon, and we deliver, and both parts deliver. And I'm very happy to say that the relevant bodies of the European Union dealing in examining how did we spend the money, they did an excellent score to this way, despite I know the Turkish authorities sometimes complained about the slowdown of the process, but I know that even in Turkey there is bureaucracy, and on the part of the NGOs there is also some complaints about the slow delivery of the permits. These are the normal things, but as a whole the statement of the deal delivered, and we have to evaluate if the problem is still, like it is the case. I visited Gaziantep in this occasion. We have to start talking about how are we dealing with the issue in the future. And this is the exact moment in which we have to evaluate that in Ankara and in Brussels. But there are other dossiers that run perfectly. The Erasmus program is a perfect form to approach students from Turkey to the rest of Europe, and on the contrary, and that part is running perfectly. For that reason, there are different folders with different legal umbrellas, with different political scopes, and there are some parts of them functioning perfectly, and there are others with problems, and we have to recognize that.
You mentioned about how the money is being spent. Has the Turkish government, during your trip here to Turkey, complained about at least half of the €6 billion that was promised by the EU to Turkey to help with more than 3.5 million Syrian refugees who are living in this country. Have you been able to reassure the Turkish government that that 3 billion is coming?
It has been raised in a very kind manner, I have to say. It's not, you notice, probably you are a journalist, that kind of harshly criticism on the delivery changed in the last time, because the figures are very clear. We paid, not just contracted, we paid the half of these 6 billion, and we contracted almost the whole 6 billion. But the delivery of the money to the people dealing with the program is not on the beginning of the program. We have to deliver in some tranches, and for that reason we have to finish to pay in some time. But I noticed that this criticism we all heard some months ago has been decreased because the figures are very clear.
Okay, what about the situation in terms of that refugee migrant deal and the situation in Idlib at the moment? Since December, since the attacks by the Syrian regime and its main ally, Russia, about 350,000 people, according to the UN, have been displaced. Many of them have been moving to the border with Turkey. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has expressly said that he needs more political support from the EU for his Operation Peace Spring, which is happening on the border between Turkey and Syria, to create what Mr. Erdogan would like to be a safe zone, to be able to let some of those 3.5 million who are here in Turkey return to their homeland. Why isn't he getting that political support that he wants from the European Union, when clearly migrants and refugees from Syria are just as much of an issue for the EU as Turkey?
That's true, but do you remember what was the first rationale of the military operation? It was not related.
We will come to that, because we'd like to talk to you about the YPG terror group.
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking about what was the rationale of the Turkish authorities when they decided to launch the military operation. And it was, we have security concerns. We have to protect ourselves, and we have to create a buffer zone. We have to clean that area of terrorists. It was not related to the migrants in the beginning.
Yes.
But in a few days, the question of the buffer zone, who was initially apparently designed for this security reason, drove to a situation in which we are sending part of the migrants to this area. And this is a very delicate issue because the international law, the relevant international law on that kind of situation allows you to promote the return to the place of origin, not to the other side of the border. And that could create, eventually, I don't know, I can say it happened, but could create some demographic movements, not expected. And for that reason, we were very clear. I personally, I always said, I endorse fully the legitimacy of the security concerns of Turkey. Of course, if you are having people suffering mortal shellings in Akkale, this is a normal security concern. But the way Turkey addressed it, this security concern is not a way that we as a European Union prefer. It's launching a military operation. That in any way could be endorsed by the European Union. This was a legitimate and, let's say, a sovereign decision of Turkey. In any way could be endorsed by the European Union. We always do prefer tables and seats and banners, if you want, but we don't act unilaterally with military meanings. It's always risky. We all know that. And even understanding the legitimate concern of Turkey, we can endorse the military operation. And then it comes the other part, is the return of the refugees. Our position has been clear. The return of the refugees has to be safe, voluntary, and dignified. And is the relevant bodies of the United Nations dealing with the issue? We are absolutely happy, knowing that Turkey and the United Nations are dealing with this situation.
Okay, so regarding the security concerns, and you say the EU has full sympathy in terms of the security concerns that Turkey has with terrorism across the border, and NATO, obviously a very close relationship with the European Union, has said the same thing, that no other NATO member country has suffered as much from terrorism as Turkey. Therefore, why wouldn't the European Union agree with Turkey that the YPG, this group that is mainly made up of Kurdish fighters is a terrorist group? Because Turkey is convinced that the YPG is the Syrian arm of the PKK. The PKK is an internationally recognized terror group, but the YPG doesn't have that same designation outside of Turkey. And Turkey would like that to happen. Is it likely to happen?
One of the factors who influence this international image has been the Syrian war, and in which part of the contendants the YPG has been acting as part of the war, and that in that way that improved the image. This is one of the factors. I come from a country who suffered terrorism. Yeah. I know how the things function. I know how you have to be careful in put the focus in the real acts of political violence with damaging results to encapsulate the facts in which you could put the label. If you extend the label, you are being counterproductive to your idea that the others consider terrorists, that group or any other group. And that sense, I think the enormous extent of the scope of terrorism in the legal framework in Turkey is being counterproductive.
Would that reluctance from the part of the European Union regarding the YPG also extend towards the FETÖ terror group? The FETÖ terror group, Ankara says, is the group that organized the failed coup here in Turkey in 2015. Is that the same reluctance of the European Union not to recognize FETÖ as a terror group?
You never encounter nobody defending FETÖ all over Europe.
But it still won't be designated a terror group by the European Union.
Well, because the story has been different, because we all know the Gulenist organization still and lived and acted freely in the country before the coup. The question is when Gulenist organization became a terror organization? Because the coup. And if it is the case, how are you extending the accusation to terrorist crimes or activities to a period before the coup? If the case who raised the nature of this group as a terrorist was the coup. And for that reason, we have to be very careful, but we as partners of Turkey in the relevant bodies of the international community, we could examine with completely open mind the request of Turkey on the consideration of this organization as a terrorist.
Well, it's my understanding also that there was a roundup of suspected Gulenist sympathizers as early as 2008. So it wasn't necessarily just the coup that brought it to be the forefront.
Yeah, but probably there were people with relation with the Gulenists only because they want an opportunity to enter in the police. Okay. You know that.
Well, that would suggest an infiltration by members of FETÖ into civil society and also administrative parties.
Even and cheating an exam to enter the police of the judiciary is a crime, but it is a terrorist crime. This is the question. It depends on the aims originally to have it that. For that reason, it's not as easy. But you are not encountering any support to the Gulenists all over Europe or all over the world. They don't have any kind of sympathy.
Okay, let me ask you a question that doesn't actually necessarily relate to your position, but as a European, and again you pointed out that maybe you might be a little bit particular because you're from Spain, which has known attempted coups before and has lived under a long dictatorship under Francisco Franco. Do you think that generally an average European citizen would have the empathy required to understand what Turkey is living through? And FETÖ would be a very good illustration of that and the failed coup here. I imagine my homeland is now, I've lived all over the world, is now the United Kingdom. If there was an attempted coup in the United Kingdom, what would the British government do? I imagine it might almost do exactly what the Turkish government is doing and try to find every single person who may have been involved in plotting that coup and actually attempting it, or who might even sympathize with it. The other thing that I wonder whether EU citizens understand is, imagine a French person living in Paris. The countries that surround that person are what? Belgium, Germany, Luxembourg, Italy, Spain, very friendly countries. If you live in Turkey, on one side of the world, you're surrounded by Syria, Iran, and Iraq. It's a very different situation. What does the average EU citizen think of Turkey's situation, do you think?
First of all, there is a lack of knowledge about Turkey in the public opinion in Europe. There are some prejudices, there are historical prejudices, and there are new trends in that image of Turkey. One thing is the rising of the populism and the extreme right narratives who includes the Islamophobia as a part of, even the Turcophobia in some grounds. I had to leave a very nasty situation in the European Parliament when one of my colleagues threw to the ground a gift offered by the embassy, I think, some Turkish delight. The other side, there was a kind of good image some Kurdish movements enjoyed after the Syrian war, and I think there is a general lack of knowledge about the country. For that reason, I asked to have more Turkish stances, faces, and voices in Iran. But the question of the coup, I remember perfectly that night. I was following the issue with my Twitter account. I was like you and like my Turkish friends asking myself, when are the guys coming out? And when I say the guy, I say Brussels, I say Washington, I say Moscow. I remember perfectly that the first person coming out, it was car built immediately, or almost immediately. This was a very confused night. If you are not here, even being here, it was very confusing. Car built went out immediately. And I remember perfectly that night because I feel the same things we, the Spanish, felt in the night of February 81 when we had a coup. And there was a laziness for our friends, especially by the Americans. And when the Americans went out only saying, this is an internal matter, this is an enormous lack of empathy, who damages enormous the image of the United States in Spain. For that reason, I understand very well what are you talking about, because we suffered the same. We suffered the sensation, where are our partners, where are our guys? I went to the country 1 month after the coup. I visited the premises of the parliament, not when it was clean, when it was completely shattered and the glasses. And when I come back here in the year 15, I paid a visit to the cemetery in Istanbul, to the martyrs. And yesterday I visited again the premises of the parliament. I offer my condolences. I put some flowers in the place that you decided is the place to commemorate the heroines of these martyrs. Okay, probably we made a mistake as European Union not being as fast as Obama, at least. But I think we learned the lesson, I think. I do really think we learned the lesson, because those things damage our relation. And I noticed very well that when I came here 1 month after, and I met Karadzic, I met the former speaker of the parliament, Don Yildirim, the other senior politician. I met Çavuşoğlu, and I noticed the lack of voices and the phones, or the lack of visits. We were here, a group of 4 or 5 politicians. The only person who visited the country before us, it was Jagland, the Secretary General of the Council of Europe. There was a mistake, really.
Can we just look at a couple of the geopolitical issues that affect the Mediterranean? At the moment, there has been some analysis that since Recep Tayyip Erdogan signed the Memorandum of Understandings for Economic and Military Cooperation with the Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj, the head of the UN-backed government in Libya, that actually frightened the European Union a little bit, because suddenly they realized that just on their shores, across the Med, Turkey was going to have greater influence on Libya. The situation at the moment is very fuzzy in terms of whether the truce will hold, whether there'll eventually be a ceasefire, how the European Union, how Turkey can affect what's happening in the country. First of all, are the EU and Turkey on the same side? Because we know there are other countries that are supporting the warlord Khalifa Haftar. But what about the EU and Turkey's aims? Are they the same?
No, the European Union is always on the side of the tables and seats, on the side of the multilateral system to approach the issues and to have an opinion. And I think probably the decision of Turkey to legitimate and sovereign decision, I have to be clear, to sign these memorandums, created some conditions to the good deliver of having the conference in Berlin. That's a fact, and that's... So
you admit that spurred the EU into action to try to find some sort of solution?
No, this is a fact. There was a new situation in which other actors besides the European Union decided, okay, let's gather in Berlin. And Germany was very, very rapid and very frequently prepare that. But this was not a reactive issue because you said. The European Union reacted because suddenly Turkey was there. No. The European Union reacted like others reacted because we appreciate that the introduction of new actors in the field could be damaged and could create more tensions. And in that occasion, fortunately, let's see what happened finally with the results of the conference. Finally, the party involvement gathered in Berlin. That is a good news, of course.
But presumably, because of what's happened with the drilling for natural resources in the Eastern Mediterranean, Greece says what Turkey is doing is illegal. Turkey has sent at least 2 ships with the ability to drill deep into those waters to try to take some of the natural resources out, which Turkey says it's doing because Greece, if anything were to be found, would not necessarily share the revenue with the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. It would do so with the Greek side, Greek administrative side of Cyprus, but not necessarily with the other side. So that's caused concern in the EU. In fact, the EU has already punished Turkey to a certain extent for those drilling activities. I just wanted to say that actually, does that also mean that the EU is concerned about the extension of the exclusive economic zones that have come out of the MOU signings with Libya?
No, the EU is concerned with their tensions. And when these tensions are addressed unilaterally, this is a question of, sometimes Turkey defends its right. I'm entitled to do something. And it's okay, we can discuss that in the relevant international courts. The question is when there is an unilateral action not in the legal sense of term. I'm going to defend my rights in the relevant international court. That's okay. I'm going to defend my rights in any gathering of the person of the parts involved. That's okay. The problem is when you create a more tense condition acting unilaterally, and this is our criticism. It's not a decision or an opinion about the final right of one or another. The question is if we acted. Everyone acted unilaterally. We are creating more tensions in the Mediterranean, and the Mediterranean is a very, very, very delicate place to create more tension. For that reason, we would really recommend to settle the issues, to sit together, and to start to discuss.
When you go back to Brussels and you compile your report for your EU colleagues, what are the most important things that report is going to say?
For the most part of my colleagues is the question related to the human rights and rule of law. There are others with other interests because of geographical reasons or cultural, but the core discussion always has been the situation of human rights and rule of law. And probably the most pungent positions we had in the past, like asking the suspension of the process, is related to this situation. I think there is the time to pass the page and to come to the normality. You can extend the tension so long after the coup. In my way, the coup and the protest has been defeated. Let's turn the page. Let's go ahead. Let's go to the future with a Turkey more related with the European Union, adopting with sincerity the European values and promoting a more open approach to the European standard.
Well, the page may be about to close because the Justice Minister of Turkey says by the end of this year, the majority of those cases regarding any connection with that failed coup should be closed by the end of the year. Nacho Sanchez Amor, thank you so much for joining us on TRT World. Really appreciate your time.
Real pleasure. Real pleasure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.